Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Original Podcast. I just want to say thank you so much, first of all, for giving this a listen. I hope this podcast is valuable for you. I hope it inspires you. I'm still kind of trying to figure out where it's going, but I'm enjoying the process, and I hope you are too. If you have any feedback, if you have any requests on what I should do differently, please let me know. Reach out through Instagram, whatever. Even in Spotify, there's a feedback section where you can kind of leave some comments now. So please dive in. So today's guest is Justin STUDEBAKER. He's an awesome guy. He co-founded Symphoneo Consulting, and he also pioneered Working Genius as one of the first certified Working Genius coaches/trainers. And that Working Genius was kind of birthed out of the pandemic. It's a productivity tool to help individuals and teams to be more productive and fulfilled in their work. Justin's a really insightful guy. He's a thought leader, and he's also a great public speaker. He's looking to do more of that. I won't spoil anything, but you'll have to listen to our conversation. So again, feel free to leave a rating on this podcast and follow what we're doing on Instagram. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, Justin. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, Corey?
Good. Thanks for coming on the podcast. You're the second guest on the Soul Original Podcast. That's the name. Keeping it on brand with my company. So pleasure to have you. Yeah.
Honored to be here, man.
So basically I'm just curious to hear, tell me or the audience kind of who you are and what you're all about, and kind of your passion for business and what have you. So
yeah. Well, my journey of business started, I'd say, back when I was in college. I was a business administration major at Sonoma State, and this was 20 some odd years ago. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting is it would have been nice having Working Genius back then, because I look back on the last 20 years and I see so many points where not understanding where my strengths and weaknesses are, how that played out in levels of frustration or not feeling fulfilled in my work, not knowing how I could use my gifts most effectively. And so, for example, I got my degree in business administration. They didn't have a marketing degree or an organizational behavior degree or a lot of degrees at that school. I just thought, well, I get a business degree. I guess that makes sense. Not knowing now what I know, which is that implementation, a lot of the operational aspects of a business administration degree are the areas that are frustrations for me. Sure. And so I just thought I didn't like school. Yeah. And so it was definitely an interesting journey. So from starting there and kind of just navigating through trying to figure out myself for like 15 years.
Yeah. We're all on that journey, right? We're all still trying, and hindsight's 2020.
It really is.
Yeah. But you mentioned Working Genius. Do you want to kind of, in a nutshell, explain what that is? I know you've talked to me about it before, but what is it, and how are you utilizing that today?
Yeah. So to go where it started, a friend of mine named Alex Medina, he's a partner at the Medina McKelvey law firm in Roseville. He introduced me to Patrick Lencioni's work because we were having conversations around something that Patrick pioneered called organizational health. And it's this concept of how, as teams and as organizations, we work together more effectively, reduce conflict, reduce politics, really increase engagement. And so, and what I was saying totally hit home with what he knew about what Patrick taught. And so it opened up this world to me of like, oh, these are my people. And then shortly after starting to digest all of his podcasts and books and materials, I had just started my master's in a similar topic, similar area, that they came out with Working Genius. And it just illuminated so many truths about struggles of mine and things that I did well, but I didn't understand why, and areas I didn't even know that I was talented in until the assessment came out. And so what Working Genius basically is a model productivity tool that came out 3 years ago that allows for individuals and teams to identify their talents and also their weaknesses. So there's these 6 different areas of work, and each one is essential for an organization to thrive. It starts in the very beginning of any process, and it goes all the way to execution. And so what explains also is where you fit. So for me, I didn't understand, like, when it comes to finishing projects, administrative work, operations, that I am really low. It's called a competency and a frustration in those areas. And so Working Genius basically is this amazing model that helps you figure out where you fit within your team and within the types of work that you have the highest capacity for success, for connectedness within your team, for just outsized output, basically. And when you understand that, then you get this energy and this fulfillment, this joy in those areas.
That's awesome. So it's kind of like a personality test, but more driven towards like productivity, and it's really good for teams. Kind of like, does that help you when you have a team, kind of knowing everyone's strengths and weaknesses and stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing assessments out there. There's, Myers-Briggs, which has been around forever. Right. There's DISC, there's Strength Finders. There's all these great.
Yeah. DISC was a big one at one of the last companies I worked at.
Yeah, a lot of companies use DISC, and I'm not discounting the effectiveness. What makes Working Genius different is that it is more of an 80-20. So it's like 80% productivity, 20% personality.
Okay.
But it's focused in 2 key areas that makes it unique, is that the dynamic simplicity of it, that it's a simple model, but it's so dynamic in terms of the aha moments that come out of seeing how these 6 steps work and where you fit. And then it's focused on the art of getting work done. So it's the language, the way that people fit in there, the way you tie it into your workflow, the way you tie it into your meetings, the way you understand this thing called altitudes of like what type of meeting are you in and what type of conversation are you in, that it's simple enough and it's focused on work enough that it takes out a layer of the complexity that comes with a personality driven model, because implementation takes simplicity to have a team be able to digest it, understand it, and actually change their behavior, which is really, really hard for adults.
Oh, totally.
It's really, really hard. Like, if it's not simple for adults, it doesn't happen.
Oh, it's so true.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's experts like James Clear and BJ Fogg and others who have highlighted this important piece that is simplicity, that is the number one key to behavior change.
Yeah, that's big. I'm just noticing with myself, like even recently I've found things I want to change and I keep just like thinking about it. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do this, do that. But like, I don't know. I'm the type of person, it's not real till I write it down and like actually put it into my calendar.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I think the older you get, it's harder to break those habits.
So hard, it's so hard. And what I've seen is that because this doesn't force somebody to change who they are, it really just illuminates their truest self when it comes to work. And then it also gives them a guide map to just live into that more effectively. I've seen it change marriages. I've seen it change families. I've seen it just completely revolutionize the way a team works together.
Yeah, it's not just for the workplace, right? I mean, a marriage is a team,
Right? It's a partnership.
Yeah, it totally is.
Think about a vacation, right? Like you go on vacation. We've seen it with Working Genius. You have to do all 6 steps to go on vacation.
Yeah.
A vacation is a work effort, not the actual, hopefully the actual vacation's relaxing, right? But the coming up, wondering where you might want to go and then inventing potential ideas around
what are those 6 steps? I mean, you don't have to go too in depth.
But I can share
20 to 30 minutes.
I know, right?
Like briefly, yeah.
Yeah, so wonder is the first step. It's like the chief optimization officer. It's the person that always is looking from 30,000 feet up above. Yeah. They're the dreamers. They're the ones who are always like, I wonder if we could do this differently. Or I see this potential problem on the horizon. We need to look at that. If Blockbuster had wonder people in it, they might not have gone out of business. Literally, it's that person that steps back and says, look at the environment and how do we respond to it effectively.
Right.
So then you've got invention. So those are the 2 kind of high altitude, visionary, big picture thinkers that they just love sitting up above. And so the inventor is the second half. They both need each other. The one responds to the environment. The other one disrupts the environment by coming up with innovative new ways of doing things. So the inventors are usually the one that get all the glory, and they're the visionaries, but they won't be as successful without the more subtle and soft-spoken wonder people. Yeah. So they play off each other in this beautiful ideation stage.
Right.
So that's the ideation stage. Then you have the next one, which has actually been misunderstood for a long time, which is the second activation stage. And that's where we have the responsive of the discernment, which is responding to and evaluating and filtering ideas and strategies and concepts that the inventor and wonder people are putting together, and making sure that it gets punted back if it needs to get looked at more to give the green light on things, right? So that's discernment, and that's really important because they're the intuitive, integrative thinkers. They're actually usually one of the most underutilized and undervalued talent on a whole team, but essential because decisions that move forward without a lot of discernment tend to fail. So they have this way of seeing things differently. And then once you've had clarity and decision-making that's been filtered, then you have to go into the second part of activation, which is galvanizing. So I'm a galvanizer. That's one of mine. So galvanizers can take a concept that's been thought through and ready to put out to the world and either go sell it, like getting your podcast out into the world by telling people about it. They love to inspire, share, all that stuff, or to move and inspire people within the company, to rally them, to get them all on the same page, all on the same board, to move forward in a set direction that everybody can get behind. Yeah. And so that's the activation phase. You need all four of those. Then the last two you need also, which is implementation. We generally value those more because that's what you can see is like the actual work getting done, producing things. Right. So the first part is the people-oriented one called enablement. And that's one that's usually less valued because it's more of the glue and the cheerleader and the person who makes everybody feel connected and excited to come to work, and they're very enthusiastic and very much like, how can I help? So they're responding to the call of the galvanizer to jump into a project, to work on a new program, to help you launch this podcast and talk to people about it, whatever it is, but more of like the actual work needs to get done. Then the last one is the one that always gets a lot of the glory, which is tenacity. And that's disrupting the status quo. That's pushing other people within the team to stay focused on finishing the project, finishing towards the deadline,
completing things, and
keeping
goals.
Exactly, keeping the expectations, the standards at a high level, and pushing everybody to stay on point, to not get distracted by other shiny objects, other projects that are coming up, and to stay on what they're finishing. So they're more task-oriented. Enablement's more people-oriented. You need both because if a team has all tasks and tenacity, then they're kind of cold and they probably fight each other and they're a little less connected as a team. And if you have all enablement and no tenacity, probably not finishing projects quickly, and you have a lot more like lunch parties and other celebratory things and not a lot of work getting done. So you have to have both, and they one softens the other, one kind of keeps the other one more focused, and so. If you're missing any of these six within your team, if you don't understand who's what and how to leverage them effectively, then you're going to be missing the boat on some part of your business. And you won't even know why, because sometimes these are under the radar, kind of like subtle things that are easily missed.
Man, that's super interesting. And did I see the acronym WIDGET?
WIDGET.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because each of them is a gear.
Yeah.
And so the gears turn.
Right.
And if you miss one, and they actually were at...
That's what the Working Genius, isn't there a gear in there?
Yeah, the Working Genius
the logo
is 6 gears that come into each other.
Makes
so
sense.
One turns the next one. And actually they were at Widgie. They had Widget without the T, and they were like, well, we're almost there, Widget. So they're like, we can find a tenacity, or T word, and tenacity really fit. But they didn't want to do like Widger or something else. That would be weird. But so it's widget so that everybody gets it. Like the gears play off each other. Each one's necessary. And when they're all working together in harmony, it's a beautiful thing where burnout goes down, friction goes down, turnover lessens, because everybody is in areas of work that give them energy and fulfillment. Yeah. Because what they found out is that it's not the amount of work you do, it's the type of work you do that matters.
Right.
And that's a big change, because Patrick would have to, people would take things off his plate that actually were things he loved.
Yeah.
Instead of taking things off his plate, they're the things that burn him out and frustrate him.
Right. Yeah, that's that widget. That's really important, I think, or I guess useful if you're running a business or starting one yourself. Like, I'm running my business. It's only, I've only been full time like 2 to 3 years, but
Yeah.
I need to do all of those things right now. And and that's how everyone's probably going to start out, but it's nice to keep that in mind. Like, I'm just thinking in the future who I'm going to hire first. And I think that, I can be thinking, okay, which part of widget is my weakness, and who can I kind of hire to, be the galvanizer or whatever kind of my weaknesses are. I mean, I don't know. I think just that's really interesting to keep in mind. People who are going to be listening to this podcast are hopefully entrepreneurs and, people in the business world, aspiring entrepreneurs. So I think that's really important to keep in mind that, I guess as you build your business, to pay attention to those things that you have to do now, your strengths and your weaknesses. And I'm sure there's some overlap, right? Do you get a score when you do the assessment, or?
What happens is it's a ranking system, not a rating system. So you get the 6 geniuses that come out in order of highest strength to lowest weakness. And some people, their ranking is pretty close to each other. That's why it's not rating it. It's not saying, oh, this is really bad, because one person's capacity in their frustration or their low competency, which would be their third lowest area, could be much higher than somebody else's, because we all have different talents and skill levels and different things. But for the most part, if you're in your frustrations too much, you will begin to experience quicksand, and you'll lose that ability to really launch forward. And what happened? Can I share about Symphoneo really quick?
Oh, yes, that was my next question.
Well, this will apply to your situation potentially. Is that I remember listening to a podcast with Patrick, and he had the mentality of how most entrepreneurs are, which is that, I'm on my own. I need to do it myself until I can hire somebody. And that's an understandable thought, right?
Yeah.
And what he said, because they said the same thing to him when he started his consulting. This is 25 years ago. And he said, no, I need to hire, I need to have people on my team. So he had co-founders.
Sure.
And off the bat, because he knew, intuitively that, because he's a discernment person, so he intuitively knew that these areas were frustrations for him, and that if he tried to just do it himself, that he would have failed miserably. And knowing that and adding those people was key to him. Now for me, with Symphoneo, is that I knew that same thing. We have some similar traits, him and I, except he's got more D and I've got more G. So he's got more discernment, I have more galvanizing.
Okay.
But I know that discernment and tenacity and even enablement is my lowest competency. That those areas, trying to run a business successfully with those 3 areas as your 3 lowest, is really, really hard to do on your own, because you're gonna really struggle. And I could go through all the reasons why. But so what I looked at is how could I find somebody who has similar values to me, who has my geniuses as their frustrations and vice versa, and that we could create a collaborative partnership that would be a win-win for both of us. And so, because I knew that if I did it on my own, I would have the whole pie, but my pie would be the size of one of those little McDonald's tiny pies that you one bite and it's done. Where if I had a partner who had similar values and similar ideas of where they want to go and had those complementary skill sets, where she does not like to do the things I love to do, and I hate doing the things she loves doing, that our pie expanded by 5 times. So literally in 2.5 years, I did about 1/5 of the business that we've done in 4 months together. And so it's hard to build a partnership, but when you have the language of working genius, when you have the model, when you have the ability to put people in the right seats on the bus and understand how you fit together and how to run meetings together, it's a revolutionary thing. It transforms the opportunity. And so now, by seeing it that way as looking at like, okay, I'm only at my greatest if I'm not in my frustrations a lot. And so if I have to do it this way, then my pie, I have to give her a decent size of my pie. So she gets a pretty big slice of that pie. But my slice is now like 5 times as big as that little McDonald's thing I would have had. And so I'm trying to teach people that, of like, look, like if you're on your own, we are always stronger together. There's nothing that we can do on our own that we will be as successful as we are as a team. And so whether it's collaborating as, you know, not even partners in the same business, but having somebody who has a similar complementary business and you two work together and you have that same thing, but just finding somebody who has complementary geniuses to you. And when you work together closely, it is incredible the transformative power of how that lifts your energy, lifts your fulfillment and your joy in what you do, and how you have an impact on that other person too. And so that's what I love about Working Genius is same thing happened to Cody Thompson, which if anybody listens to the podcast, you'll know who that is. But he tried to start up, and he did it while he was starting at at Table Group, which is the name of the company. Okay. And literally, like, they started really strong because they had 5 of them, but they all had the first 4 geniuses as their top ones, and they didn't know that they were missing 2 of them. And so that's the other problem, is as you're building your team, you need to know who has what strengths, weaknesses, because you could have a team where you're totally missing a very important piece, and now you're fighting with each other and you don't know why. So they're playing.
You might go through like a lot of turnover trying to find that right person, I'm guessing, you know.
Yeah, or you realize you fought all this way into your startup, and you realize that this team is not going to work well together. Yeah. And that's what they realized. They had a hot potato once it got to implementation. No one had enablement and tenacity. They were all trying to galvanize each other to get work done, and they failed. Because the Working Genius came out at that point, and they're able to take the assessment and go, oh my gosh, like none of us have enablement and tenacity. None of us want to do the implementation side of this, and that's an important part of the whole thing. You can't have a company without ET people. Yeah, and so they had to disband. But it was pain and hurt their relationships, and it was a couple years of hard work that if they had the Working Genius assessment off the bat, they could have all taken it and been like, this isn't going to work. Like, a couple of us have to leave. We have to bring in a couple other people who have ET because we're just going to fail. Yeah. So every team needs to take this to help them identify if they have the right people on the team, like how to use them most effectively, and to unearth these areas of genius like wonder, discernment, enablement, which are harder to identify, and most teams don't value correctly to their detriment. Yeah.
Well, man, you've convinced me. You got the gears turning in my head, giving me ideas. So let's go back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Symphoneo Consulting. I said it right?
Symphoneo, you nailed it, man.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Just kind of, how long has it been in the works? And I think you've recently kind of gone all in on it, right?
Yeah, I recently, I was a men's stylist at Nordstrom for a long time. And this is a great example of how diminishing returns happen when you live in your competencies too much. So I was at Nordstrom for a long time. I got to a level of success that everybody's like, how would you want to leave this? You're so good at what you do. Yeah. But it was in areas of my competencies and frustrations. And so I ended up leaving Nordstrom as a full-time employee. Even though I was number 1 in the store, I was doing really well, but I wasn't fulfilled by it. Sure. And so I went and started working for the Alliance as I was starting my master's, which is a great nonprofit I can share more about in a little bit.
It's incredible. Yeah.
A great nonprofit focused on kids and families in the local area. And during that time, I got certified Working Genius. I was doing that on the side as well. Finishing my master's. So I was doing still working at Nordstrom a little bit, working at the Alliance. Basically, I had way too many projects going on. But my end goal really was Working Genius. Like, I knew that I wanted to evangelize Working Genius because I knew the transformative nature of this. And so Symphoneo actually came out of Isla and I meeting up because we were friends for like 10 years, but we had never done anything in business together. We were just friends from church and just building a friendship together that we started talking about her love of Working Genius, and then seeing that we were such a complementary fit, and seeing the way that we work together. And what Symphoneo means, it's Greek for harmonious agreement. So
interesting.
Yeah. So like if you think of a symphony, it's actually the word Symphoneo, symphony came out of that. And so think of the most beautiful orchestra you can think of, and how these separate parts, when they come together, they create a beautiful, much more attractive product. And that's how it is when you bring these divergent people together, that together they're so much stronger. And so,
Gotcha.
So
do businesses come to you for help, and do you like utilize Working Genius to help them kind of find strengths and
that's a great
weaknesses
question.
and a way forward?
That's a great question. So we are focused pretty much strictly on Lencioni's models. So we do Working Genius as the foundational thing. We tie in some of his other ones, like 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Ideal Team Player, some of those, Death to Meeting, which is other really cool models that he's created. But the whole concept is that we work with individuals and teams and organizations as a whole to help them create dynamic, high-functioning teams. And so with the idea that they can get more done in less time and actually have fun doing it. And so we do that by doing individual consults and then doing team consults and trainings, which can be offsite, so like half day, full day, where we can really go deep into the model and help them understand each other better, build trust within the team, understand how to communicate better using this language, where they all fit within the team map. So there's actually a team map that shows where each person's strengths and weaknesses are within work. So then if they need to, they can readjust or reallocate roles, or just who collaborates with who, because you can understand, this person frustrates me, but they're actually the key to my success. Because the person that you don't understand is the exact person who holds your greatest ability, because they're opposite of you.
Right.
And we don't understand, I don't understand my business partner at all. Like there's so many times where we're coming from totally different directions. We get at the same place, but we come from so different directions because of the way our mind works. And so understanding that and having a language for it, it just clears up those issues and allows them to launch forward. So teams, organizations will come to us either for their leadership team or to build it into the culture. So we do multiple team trainings that really just soaks it into the fabric of the company, so that they can have teams that, higher productivity, higher efficiency, lower turnover and burnout, less friction, higher collaborative and communicative abilities, just really revolutionizing the way that their teams operate. And then it can help with hiring as well, along other things. So
well, cool. It sounds really exciting. Where are you looking to take it, or what are some goals you have just for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, really evangelizing Working Genius within the Sacramento Valley, just infusing this into companies, into nonprofits in some way, shape, or form, into the state. We just started a state contract. Well, actually, I started a state contract. I have to do it separately due to my business partner works for the state, so that's mine. But we really want to get into any organization that really cares about their people and wants to see them succeed, that we want to come in and help. So I would say our 2 main goals is just to infusing this into the Sacramento Valley, and then really me developing into inspirational speaker. I love inspiring people. I love seeing people their the ability that they have, believing in that and seeing that there's so much more to them than they think there's there. And when you can show them their talents, I learned, I did not even know I was an inventor. I had no idea that was even a talent of mine. Right. But doing the charity work and these different projects with Dress the Soar and the Alliance, opened my eyes to, I guess I naturally do come up with ideas, and I naturally do kind of think of the big picture and kind of be a visionary, discover
some of your talents as you kind of work and the more experience you have. I mean, I think we met a couple of years ago at the Roseville Chamber. I remember you are a talented speaker because
Thanks,
I remember, everyone goes around and gives their pitch, for their business. I think it was at a breakfast or something. And I think you were there on behalf of the Alliance that day. And I was like, oh, he seems really cool.
Thanks, man.
He kind of inspired me there. I got to go up and meet him. So I could definitely see how that is a skill of yours. Do you want to take that and eventually speak at big business conferences and events someday?
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm speaking at the Sacramento Area Human Resource
Awesome.
Association conference that's this upcoming Wednesday and Thursday right here in Roseville.
Okay. Sweet.
So speaking at that as a breakout, I've got a couple other talks like that are coming up. But yeah, getting more like paid speaking gigs to go to conferences and stuff like that
Sure.
is high up on my list. I mean, nothing gets me more excited than getting in front of a crowd and getting them excited and getting them inspired. So.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're coming to the end here, but I just wanted to kind of dig into a little bit like where that passion for inspiring people and just kind of for what Working Genius does, helping teams and individuals collaborate and, use their gifts. I mean, where does that kind of come from, I guess? or do you even know?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from the lens of Working Genius, like when you're an inventor galvanizer like me, or in reality, I'm actually galvanizer inventor. It's, if you look at it from the highest talent, but is that galvanizers are naturally people who like to inspire. Like, so when I was younger, I was big into sports. I didn't know that this was how I was wired, and then when I was in college, like I ran a fraternity, which there's certain aspects of that I'm not proud of, but there's also the side of, I really liked the team building side of it and leading and inspiring people. And that was what I liked most about college. And then I kind of didn't have a lot of that in my 20s. It wasn't until I started Dress to Soar with some friends of mine, like Chris Ortiz, that I got the chance to speak in front of groups, and I got the chance to get in front of volunteers and inspire them to want to do more to make a difference in the lives of foster youth. And it was actually just stumbling into that opened my eyes to talents. I honestly didn't think I had very many talents at that point. I literally, when I was at Nordstrom, I was like, I don't really think I can do that much to help these kids. I think I can teach them how to put on a tie and maybe give them a shirt. That was about the extent of what I thought my talents were. Yeah. And so so that opened my eyes, and then just the language and seeing it on paper of like, oh my gosh, like I take these things for granted. Now I'm not going to take them for granted. I'm going to lean into these areas that I now know that are areas of talent. But before that, I was just kind of winging it, and I had no clue where my frustrations were. So I would not understand why I would get so burnt out and emotionally just drained from when we'd have a big event. And so really, like, it was when Working Genius came out and I was able to see that clearly, that I've now gone like, okay, I'm leaning into that, because this is where I can see clearly now, like, this is where I thrive. This is where I love. And so just to help people, like, have clear language for where they're going to make the most impact in the world, and whether they're volunteering, whether they are working, whether they're helping their family, like, but having language and guidance of like, this is what you're made for right here. Yeah. Okay, stay focused on that. Right. Don't lose sight of that, because that's where your most gift come from. Yeah. And that's what changed for me. Before that, I was like, I guess I'm good at that. People would tell me all the time, man, you're so good at giving talks at the Dress to Soar stuff or at Lions. I guess so. It just comes naturally to me. I don't really think about it. Yeah. Because we take for granted the things that we're so good at. Yeah, totally. And then we don't lean into it, right? Yeah. We don't value it.
It sounds like you've found the intersection of something you're really good at and something you enjoy. Yeah. Right? I mean, you were talking about being at Nordstrom, but it wasn't really like fulfilling. It sounds like you found that passion, and now you get to turn around and help people do that for them, just like you were talking about. Yeah. So
100%. That's
you're
what
passionate about people finding their passion, right?
Yeah, exactly. Finding the unique ways that they're meant to make a difference in the world, that they're meant to lean into their companies. Because so many times there's a competency trap, and that's where you went to school for this, you got a job in this, you get really good at this, everybody thinks you're really good at this, but guess what? Because it's only a competency, you are slowly draining life out of yourself. Right. Diminishing returns are happening. That's what happened to Patrick and his company. That's why Working Genius came out. Okay. And awesome. And we all have these competency traps, like I did at Nordstrom. Yeah. So it's hugely helpful to know what those competency traps are for you. Yeah.
I feel like that's a very American common problem in America, I guess, to have, because we, you go to college and you're like, okay, this is my major, and so I have to get this job, and you can kind of get stuck. And maybe not enough people stop and think like, hey, should I be doing this? Should I am I good at this? Am I passionate about it? Where can I best use my talents? But
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool that you help people kind of find that.
I love it, man. As long as my team lets me stay out of the operational side of things, I'm a happy man.
There you go. Awesome. Well, yeah, that's just about it. I just like to kind of give people a plug at the end, to tell if there's anything you want to say, or if there's somewhere you're speaking at, I don't know, in the next month, or I guess where can they find you online?
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find us on our website. Our website is www.scroseville.com. And I'll be speaking at the Sarah conference on Wednesday, I think at 1:30, if anybody ends up going to that conference. Nice. If this comes out by then,
Yeah, probably not, actually.
It's okay. It's okay. But other than that, I've got some other talks, but not dialed in quite yet. Yeah. But yeah, my website. I'll even say this: any of your listeners, if you contact me, we'll give you a special rate on a assessment, personalized insights, and a one-on-one consultation.
Very nice. Cool. So mention the Soul Original podcast.
Exactly. We'll give you our intro
discount
rate.
Code or
discount. Yeah, exactly. That would be great. We're happy to do it. Really appreciate being on this.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.